الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed on you as it has been prescribed for those before you. Today we're going to continue our speeches, which is going in order of this speech of Hazrat Fatima, different points that she made in the speech that she made actually in Fadak. So we had covered a few of the other items that she mentioned, and one that she mentioned was the ilal for siyam and fasting. So, going a little bit fast, well, first of all, we wanted to thank all of the people who helped with the organizing the program, and also we wanted to thank all of the young men and the young women who read some Quran for us, and get us in the proper mood and proper state. And please give a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad for all of them. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's very important that we always appreciate the efforts of the mu'mineen, and also that we never downplay the efforts of the mu'mineen, and we never know which one of these actions that we undertake is going to, which one of these seeds is going to have a big result. The hadith from Fatima Zahra alayha salam was as-siyam tathbitan lil ikhlas, that fasting is to establish this sincerity. And the verse that we had was that it was fasting was written on you as it was written on those before you, to increase you in taqwa, la'allakum tattaqun, that perhaps you might have fear of Allah. So, with what we said, that we don't know which one of these small actions is going to have a big result. We don't know which majlis is going to have some sort of reminder to maybe one individual in the crowd. He remembers something, and maybe at some point in his life he was going to commit a sin, and then he stops because he remembered something that he heard in one of the majalis. We don't know which person is going to be inspired. Maybe he came by accident, and then somehow Allah put in the mind of the person who was going to recite that he mentioned something. It's happened before that sometimes someone would come to one of the people who was giving a speech, and he said, this is the most amazing speech I've ever heard. Where did you get it? And how long have you been thinking? He says, actually, my speech was something else, and I forgot the speech at the hotel, and so I had to just come up with something on the fly, but that was what Allah wanted that individual to hear. Something I remember when as the brothers here now, most of them know my story, that we used to be Sunni before we became Shia. And fortunately and unfortunately, so there's good and a bad in this story. So there was some brothers who they came, and for them, the majalis of Imam Hussain was kind of like their little safe area. It was their little piece of Pakistan in America, or the little piece of Lebanon in America, or a little piece of whatever. And not only with this, and also when we would show up, we wouldn't know the akhlaq and the rules because we never did this before. We would come and sit how we wanted or do what we wanted, and some of the people would come, they would just come for eating the food or whatever. And some of the brothers are like, why are these people even coming? Kind of thinking about it short term. Not thinking, subhanallah, this is the majlis of Imam Hussain, and we didn't do any effort in this place for any tabligh. We had this majlis for ourselves. We didn't hold out a big sign and say, Ya ayyuhan nas, come here to this majlis. We have a majlis for Imam Hussain. You're going to get a good education. Any person is open, nothing. We just had this for ourselves. And they never thought, subhanallah, we did this for ourselves with no thought even to the other people. And Allah sent people here into that majlis to get the barakat of Imam Hussain. Please give us salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And they would say things like, they just come for the food. But think about it. There was some person who was miskeen. He was hungry. He didn't have any food to eat. And because of the barakat of Imam Hussain, maybe he didn't go back hungry. Because sometimes the people were genuinely poor. We knew some of the brothers, they had the majlis was, that was their food for the day. They didn't eat that day. It's even happened to me. Sometimes I lost my job between jobs. They don't know. I'm not going to complain out loud. And my family had food that night because there was majlis of Imam Hussain. What kind of barakat? That's like the smallest barakat is that. The person maybe is munafiq and he doesn't learn anything, but he ate. Other people, maybe he comes and because he's there, he doesn't do any sins for 5 minutes, like the salat. One of the benefits of the salat tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Sometimes he's a person is munafiq, he's coming there to show off. But maybe for that 5 minutes, he's not committing sin for 5 minutes out of the day. After that, he's committing the whole time. Maybe because of that barakat, we don't know where it's going to go and where it's going to stop. Maybe one person comes to one majlis, he says, oh, this is interesting. Sometimes a person is Sunni, he stumbles in there by accident. He thinks it's a Sunni prayer, and he comes in and sits down and just topic. I knew people like this. He would come just for the food. He was Sunni brother. He was he had Shia friends, and he came and he came and he came, and he was just coming for the food. And after a while, his heart got soft. The next thing you know, he went the rest of the way. So when we do these things, and also some of these things like giving the people food, this is like the sunnat of the imam, that they would do this. They would come, invite the people, because you come, their heart is soft, they leave with a good feeling. There's tabarruk. We don't know who knows. A lot of us are giving food or helping because we want to get the ajr for our parents and grandparents. You don't think that our parents and grandparents are really appreciating? Because now that once you die, the hisab is closed. We all wish that we could go back and do one more good deed and read one more Fatiha or say one more salawat. Because everything counts there. That this person now who his hisab is closed because of the barakat of Imam Hussain, now he is still getting blessings and things like that. Please give us salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when we're talking about fasting, it's very interesting that this is all of the different aqwam. They have some version of fasting. Sometimes they have some fast that we don't have. Like the Hazrat Maryam, they're talking, and Zakaria, they're talking about a fast that you're quiet, you don't say anything. Some people, they have fast where they only avoid certain type of food. I remember I had a Christian friend, he's like, I'm fasting. He's like eating and drinking and this, that, and the other. You're like, what kind of fast is this? He said, no, I'm really fasting, mashallah, really digging in this month. I'm not going to eat meat for a month straight, just fish. Really mu'min guy in his religion. But he's trying, he's making effort, and you used to see that Allah would give him rewards. And there was one of them, he wanted to have a church or something like that. So he said, you know what, I'm going to do something for Allah. I need this church. So he started fasting, and he, cut out his meat or something like that. And he did it so many days in a row, and Allah gave him the thing that he desires. So this is something that is in all of the different people of the world, that we know inherently, we know that we have to be able to deprive ourselves of something. Now, this is giving us taqwa. And what is the meaning of taqwa? That they usually translate it in English as fear of Allah. A better way is more awareness of Allah. That you're being aware of Allah. But if you think about it, it's more the awareness of the greater good, and the greater what's really happening with this. Because all of us are aware that Allah exists, right? However, when you're thinking, if this, let's say this water is not mine, when you're understanding, if I go and I steal it, then this is going to send me into hell. That is what motivates your action. Or this is going to send me into paradise. This is going to have this good effect. This is going to have that good effect. When you're having that greater awareness, and you say, how can fasting do that? How does fasting give us this type of awareness? Because they say also, this word taqwa is like wiqaya, like a shield. That I took a protection. They say, qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Protect yourself and your family from the fire. Wuqudaha nasa wal hijara. That the fuel is stones. Usually the fuel is wood. No, the fuel is stones and men. Imagine what type of fire this is. And Allah is like, protect yourselves and your families from this. Now, when you're fasting, what do you do that's different? First of all, there's a niyyah, right? And this niyyah is mustamir, it's continuous. It's from the beginning to the end of the day. You have an intention. The second thing is, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. Because you can't just say anything, you can't just do anything. You have to pay attention to what you're putting in your mouth. One of the things you notice, at least me, if sometimes now that I'm not working, I'm sitting in the hotel, so you just start nibbling. Don't have anything to do, so you just yum, 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 yum. Finding this pieces of, you have to pay attention. Like, wait, I'm eating a lot of sugar now. But we do this in our daily life. The brothers, sometimes you're like working at home or something like that, and so you just have your bag of chips and you're just eating. You're not paying attention to what you're doing. No, when you're fasting, you have to. Can I do this? Is this halal? Is that halal? It puts that state of being God-fearing into your mind. That normally I'm thirsty, I grab some water. You're like, oh, I'm thirsty, but I can't grab some water. I have to control myself. Why? Because I have a reward. Because Allah does not want me to. So it puts you in that state of being aware of what Allah wants. And it's similar to how we say of small sins. Most of the times we don't do big sins, Or if you do big sins, you have to work your way up to it. If you think about it, most of the big sins you do because you work your way up to it. You were mustakhif, you said, oh, this is a small sin, this is a small sin. They said that, Amir al-Mu'mineen says that saying that a sin which is small is a big sin. So if I say, oh, mashallah, it's not a big sin, I'll just drink a little bit of this, stolen water. No, that's a big sin. It wasn't until you said that, until you decided that it's not. Amir al-Mu'mineen says that anytime you commit a sin, you actually commit two sins. Anytime you do one sin, you commit two. And you say, well, how I only did this one sin? If you think about it, he said, one is the actual sin. So this wasn't mine and I took it. That's the one sin. The bigger sin that you did was tajarri bi'amr Allah. I think I'm bold with the command of Allah. Allah said no. I said, who are you to tell me what's right and what's wrong? Who are you to tell me that this water I can't have? I'll take this water. I used to use the example a lot because the brothers from Iraq, they knew the example well because they had the tyrant, but like the tyrant with secret police and this and that. And now the government here is trying to get like that. They want to watch you with their phone and who's thinking the wrong thing and stuff. But they had the tyrant like that. So anytime they wanted to, let's say, speak on politics or anything like that, they would think about it first. Wait a minute, can I trust this guy? What will happen? What am I saying? So they got it as a mental habit that think first, then talk. And this is just a taghut with human powers and human secret police. Imagine any of us, we have to, they have sometimes this, somebody, some person, he would do a good job in Iraq or something, and they would, Saddam would be like, yeah, you did such a good job of building this road, I want to have a meeting with you. And so the person would have to be so careful, like on pins and needles. I don't want to say anything that's going to make this person angry and lose his mind and kill me and kill my whole family. Would any of us not care? No, we're human beings. Some sort of taghut. I remember I saw a movie that was I was learning Persian. And they showed us one of these like old Irani movies from the time of the Shah. They showed the movie. And he got called into the office with the savak. And all the savak had those little like fedoras or whatever. So the guy, he has to like do some government business. So the savak calls him in. And the savak is like, before my cigar, like to give him a cigarette. And he's like, no, I don't smoke. And the savak just looked at him and he took the cigarette, he started trying to smoke. You don't want to make this guy angry, and then next thing you know, you mess up your whole life. So this is how we are with the human beings. But now with Allah, you see people are bold. Like, I would, when I had my students, I would always tell them, like, whatever you do, don't make halal haram. Don't make haram halal. Meaning, if you make a sin, do tawbah. But don't say that the sin is not a sin. As long as you're doing tawbah, you have some sort of hope. So, okay, you have some sort of issue with lying, or you have stealing, or whatever. Everybody has something. You have your little jihad that's just going on in your life. But all of us, we want to think that we're a good person. I want to think that I'm a good person. Say, well, some people, they say, well, I don't make my salat, but mashallah, I'm kind to my parents. No, that's making it khafif. That's regarding the sin as little. Now you did it, first you had one problem, you forgot about the salat. You were busy that day, and you didn't get time to it. Okay, minor sin. When you said, oh, it's not a big deal, now suddenly, the black Escalades of Saddam were headed down that way, and then that's like you threw up the middle finger, and now the cars turned back around. And they're like, what did you do when the Sayyid al-Rais was going past? Yeah, we have to be, no, don't do that. Okay, you did this, okay, by chance I forgot to salute when, the tyrant was coming past. But don't make it now worse, that now it's an actual issue. That you actually know. Now we need to come over and have a sit down and a talk. So we need to do this. That don't do this, make the sins khafif. Don't make it that it's not important. Don't justify them. Sometimes that's what they do. They have some sort of problem. You're supposed to do X, you're supposed to do Y, you're supposed to do Z. And then, because it's painful, who wants to think that I'm a bad person? It's painful. I don't want to think that I'm bad. I want to think that I'm good. So to try to avoid this pain, that's actually not a sin anymore. Why not? Because X, Y, Z, which I just pulled out of my front pocket. This wajib is not a sin because of this. That wajib is not a sin because of this. There's a lot of ulama and akhuns who do the same thing, so obviously it's not bad for me either. You want to make excuses for yourself. So to try to escape from this pain, you now put yourself in a bigger hole. You say, out of the frying pan into the fire. So you were in one small hole, which is that you sometimes you do X, Y, or Z. Okay, small hole. Now it's just do tawbah, and you need to work on yourself and figure out why do your mental gymnastics or therapy or whatever you need to do to figure out why you have this bad habit, and work on it, and inshallah, at some point in time, you don't do it again. Each day you make your azam, and that's why it's when they say jihad al-akbar, because it's jihad. This is the hard one. It's easy to go out and maybe have your azam one day, get your sword and charge out into the battlefield. Maybe you win, maybe you lose. It's easy. 5 minutes sabr and you're over. But every day you're presented and you realize that I'm the problem. Because we see, that's the thing, one of the things of Ramadan. We see that it's, it's not shaitan. It's like 90% me, or 95% me, maybe 5% shaitan. I'm the problem. When you look at it that way, This is my jihad, that I have to work on this problem. And then once you finish that problem, there's another problem you have to work on. Once you finish that problem, there's another problem you have to work on. If you're looking at it like that, my biggest project is me. But fasting is a good way to teach us that, because it shows that we have that capacity. How come we can do it in Ramadan? How can we do it with something which is actually zururi? Like for the survival of our body, we need to eat and drink. Somehow we have control. For something which is doing zarar and we know it's a sin, somehow we don't have control. We're able to wait a whole entire day for something necessary for our body. We can do it 12 hours. You guys, I don't know how y'all are doing, like, I don't know how many hours you're fasting, 20 hours or something sometimes in some of these cold areas. You're able to control yourself for 20 hours. I remember we would be fasting, doing construction in Houston. 90 degrees outside, we're doing construction, and somehow we have self-control. And then, this is for things that you actually need. People they're like, I can't quit cigarettes. No matter what I do, I can't cigarettes. Oh, then how do you'd be able to do it in the Ramadan? You could control yourself. It is an awareness for us that no, I actually can. But the thing is that it's also ikhlas, because you're the only one who knows if you did or you didn't. I remember I had a friend, and he was cheating on his fast. So he would, and I remember I did it when I was a little kid. So I would be fasting, and I was like 5 years old or something. I don't remember. I was little. And what's his name? It started raining, and then the rain started coming off of the roof. So I went and I sat under it. I was catching the water with my mouth. And my brother, he said, hey, I saw you. You were breaking your fast. You're breaking. I was like, no. I made tawbah. It doesn't count. And then he said, no, your fast is ruined. So I went and I cried to my mother. She said, no, just don't do it again. And inshallah, you get maghfirah. It's not wajib anyway. It's a little kid. But we need to have the self-control. Teach yourself to do it. You can have that you can. It keeps you, when you're controlling these little sins, it keeps you from slowly progressing towards this nifaq. They said one time, the Prophet was in the desert, and he said to his companions, we need firewood. And it's in the middle of the desert. They said, there's no wood around here. We can't start a fire. He said, everybody go and find what you can. So one guy got one stick, one guy got a little piece of grass, and everybody went and they found, like, each person had a little handful of, plant material, and they put it together and they made a fire. He said, this is how the small sins are, that you're able to make a big fire for yourself because you're not paying attention. There was a Syrian sheikh, a Sunni, Sheikh Bouti. Jolani and them, they killed him. This is before the war, because he was calling for peace. So they murdered him with the suicide bomb, just to show you how gumrah these people, how lost they are. The person calling for peace, he said, look, we're all Muslims. We need to sit down together, find a resolution, this, that, and the other. So he used to give, I remember the speech because we were in one of these little microbuses at the time when he was giving the speech on the radio. And he made a good example. He said that a big sin is like if you're driving a car and you pull the wheel and try to go at a 45-degree angle. If you're driving fast, you'll flip the car over right then and there. He said a small sin that you do israr on it is like you pull the car at a 2-degree angle, but you do israr on it. If you insist on it. So this is that it's not that important that I'm doing X, Y, or Z. I'm just stealing a little bit of the khums money. Not all of it, just, enough for me to buy. You did israr. Next thing you know, now you have. You find yourself out there in the middle of the battlefield and you're fighting with Imam Hussain. These people were Muslims. Probably none of them, they might have never did any big sins. But they did a small sin, they did another small sin, they did another small sin, they made that one khafif, you made that one khafif, you made that one khafif. You actually became a bad person, but you never even realized because you did it bit by bit. they say it's like boiling a frog. I don't know if it's actually true. I've never boiled a frog, but they say this. That if you get the frog and you turn up the heat slowly, the frog doesn't realize because it's relative. So the water gets hotter, and then the frog just sits there because it doesn't feel hot because it got hot slowly, and it got hot slowly, and it got hot slowly, and finally it's so hot that it cooks the frog, and the frog doesn't know. I don't know. I've never boiled a frog, so this is not scientific. This is, if that example is true, then that's how you do it. But we're like that. So we're basically, you know, if you ever try to go into the water, you go, if you just run and jump in the water, it's freezing cold, and you're like, oh no. But if you go in slowly, your body like kind of adjusts to it, and so you don't notice that I'm getting deeper and deeper in the water. But a sin can be like that. But also one of the things that, this is the warning, but the good news is, good habits are the same way too. What we try to do, sometimes we try to we have built up a habit over a long time, and we try to attack it one day, we fall down, and we're like, you know what, there's nothing I can do. Let me just justify the sin and move on, Yamshi Allah. No. Take it one step at a time. You didn't get this bad habit in one day. You can't get rid of it in one day. But if you work on it, day by day by day by day by day, or you work on this good deed, you say, you know what, let me make my salats a little bit better. You know how we do, we power through them. I got a lot to do, you have customers calling you, you have your mom on the phone, you have blah, 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 you got your Netflix binge that you gotta, finish binging, right? So, let me power through this salat. Say, okay, let me try to make my salat a little bit better. If you try to make it through the whole thing, let me make the first rakat at least. Let me just say the Fatiha with some sort of ikhlas. It's so interesting how if you do that, then you can continue. If you, like they say, how do you eat an elephant, right? You say one bite at a time. That if you try to just swallow the elephant, you can't get it. But if you sit it down and start chomping away at it, you can finally get it down. So when we're trying to establish the good habits, Allah is giving us all these reminders. He said, look at your fast. That you're able to control yourself 1 hour. You're able to control yourself 2 hours. Usually at the end of the fast, you don't even care. Like, I remember there was these people, either they were new Muslims or they were had never fasted before. Like, their family wasn't religious, and so they decided, mashallah, let's go ahead and we're going to try to fast. In like 3 hours, they broke down. Oh my God, this is so hard. It was just mental. Because we know the good and well that a human being doesn't have to eat. Like, you can eat one time a day. Like, these people, like sometimes starvation situation, they eat 1 time or 2 times in a day. And there's nothing else the rest. Especially like, in the past, we used to be like living in the jungle or something like that. And if you catch something, you eat. If you don't catch something, you don't eat. So we can survive a while without eating something. But mentally, they had just habituated themselves as it was all that's on their mind. That I haven't eaten something, I haven't eaten something, I haven't eaten something, and so they couldn't control themselves. But we can untrain ourselves this bad behavior. Please give us salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, as we wanted to try to review a little bit about just where we are in the story of Karbala and how did this happen. That one of the fundamentals of it was this, that these people had slowly but surely allowed themselves to slide into the dunya. If you ever read Nahj al-Balagha, so many of the hadiths and the khutbahs are about avoiding this love of the world. But they slowly slid into it until this Muawiyah la'anahullah took over. And he started slowly but surely becoming more and more aggressive against the Ahlul Bayt. First he was like, okay, I'm going to be Amu of the Mu'mineen, and I'm going to, just living with bribes and this, that, and the other. However, as time went on, he started, please give us salawat ala Muhammad wa ali. Can somebody get me this napkin? Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Shukran. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He became more and more bold, especially when he wasn't getting pushback. So why this Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar is important? Because if you don't do it, it gives these tyrants ideas. We think that if we do it, we're somehow... It's funny, when we had this protest, some of the people were like, no, we can't do anything because now they're going to be this. If we're not going to protest in the time of a genocide, then what are we doing? It's like I'm going to pull my starters in the Super Bowl so they'll rest. If you follow American football, or if you follow baseball at the World Series, I'm going to rest the starters. Why? Now it's the World Series. There's no time to rest them. It's a playoff game. You lose, you go home. So they had abandoned this Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. They began, let me just go over and do taqiyya, until, after the whole entire truth, everything gets lost. Every man for himself. Just the fact that they had that ideology of every man for himself shows that there was already a breakdown starting to have a problem. So Muawiyah, first he starts persecuting companions. He gets away with it. Nobody says anything. Then now he escalates to Imam Hassan. They don't start with poisoning Imam Hassan. First they start with some of the nobodies, and then nobody says anything that doesn't raise a fuss. Then you turn up the heat on the frog. So now you can murder Imam Hassan. Imagine that had started something. That had started, even if, because also a lot of times they say, well, the Imam didn't order. No, the Imam's hands get tied by the people. Meaning if the people came out and demanded justice, then the Imam can come and demand justice. But if the people are going to sit there and be like, you shouldn't do, or you know how these people are, you shouldn't have poked the bear. They have that mentality. Then the Imam can't poke the bear because he's going to go poke the bear and the bear's going to eat him, and then it's just one person, because the whole entire nizam and all of these people are on that side. But if the people are refusing the government, and the people are not, and the people are angry, and the people are like, this is ridiculous, and you went and you killed our Imam, and you went and you broke the treaty, and they become over, and they become a mu'arada, then Muawiyah has to back off. At the least he has to back off. He'd be like, okay, I'm not even going to try to insert Yazid. But when everybody sits there and is quiet, okay, let me kill one more person and see what happens. Let me kill one more person and see what happens. Let me kill another person and see what happens. And then they can go all the way. So he killed Hujr ibn Uday. Nobody said anything. Killed some other Shias. Nobody said anything. Put Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. Nobody said anything. Made Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad his brother. Nobody said anything. Then he said that, look, I'm going to make Yazid the person after me. And finally, he started getting like minor pushback from some of these shakhsiyat. So Imam Hussain, Abdullah ibn Zubair, what's his name? Omar's son, I forget his name. Abdullah ibn Omar. And some of these people started to say, no, that you can't put Yazid as the Khalifa. So he realized now this is going to be the red line of the Ummah, that people gave pushback. So afterwards, he continued his makr, and he put Yazid as his person after him, and he told him, he knew the personalities. He said, this person and this person, be rough with them. This person and this person, bribe them. And he said, Imam Hussain, just leave him alone. He knew he had so much standing in the community that the community would reject if he tried to do something to him directly. But what happens is that these taghuts, that they get to a point in their arrogance that they feel like I should be able to do anything to anyone wherever. They get to a certain had that their nafs takes over, and they're like, why do I have to, humor these peons? They get to this ana rabbukumul a'la, their last stage of their tyranny. So Yazid was like this. So when his father passed, he didn't even attend the funeral. Completely just selfish and greedy and a terrible person, and just ignored whatever his father's commandments were. He's like, I'm just going to force Imam Hussain to do. Just sheer arrogance, because he could have got what he wanted. Just don't say anything, take over, and don't try to, force him into it. Maybe it'll be if kick the can down the road. This is like his logic of his father. But him, out of his arrogance, he's like, no. So he sent his people there, and it's interesting, there was one of the Bani Umayyah there who, for whatever reason, was kind of sympathetic to the Ahl al-Bayt. Whether he was sympathetic sincerely, it seems when they take his words, he seemed like he was somewhat actually legitimately believed in Allah in some way. And then Marwan ibn Hakam raised his head. So Marwan ibn Hakam, if you read his story, basically after the death of the Prophet, anytime something bad happens, somehow his name is involved. The killing of Uthman, he's the one who provoked the people to kill, like that. They had made some kind of deal that they're going to move Uthman and maybe, appease Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr and this, that, or the other. He went and contradicted him. And then he went and killed some of the crowd. And so they killed Uthman. Then instead of letting the situation settle, he went and stirred up the people against Amir al-Mu'mineen. He went and blocked the funeral of Imam Hassan. So Marwan ibn Hakam, anytime something bad happens, somehow his name is involved. So he started trying to force the Imam. The Imam was like, look, let me just, if the people won't accept if I make bay'ah in private. He's like basically giving them an out. So to let them, then Marwan is like, no, I'm going to force him to do it. And then Imam Hussain refused that. He took his family and they moved to Mecca. When the Kufans and other parts of the world heard that the Imam had refused this bay'ah, they started sending letters to the Imam that we want you to come and be our Imam. Now, some of these people were mukhlis and sincere and had seen enough, and they felt like the people were ready. But you can tell from what happened next that there was a lot of the people who they had been so corrupted by their own sinful behavior that they could see what the right thing was, but they didn't actually mean it. And that it was like eggshells. Which is one of the things that happens, that sometimes people think, oh, well, why do this happened a few years ago. They wanted to have protesting the government or whatever like that here. Or in America, actually, the 99% protests. This is, I think in Obama's time they tried this. And I was warning them, I said that if you don't have a spiritual base for what you're doing, it's going to fail. They said, no, but we know what's right and we know what's wrong. In a secular way or in a Christian way. But they didn't do any work on their personality. I said, it's going to fall apart and it's not going to work. They said, how can you say that? We know that racism is wrong. We know that this is wrong. We know that that is wrong. But they didn't have any spiritual base. So what happened, even with BLM and stuff, the minute they gave them money, immediately they started fighting amongst themselves and buying themselves houses, and the whole thing fell apart. This is supposed to be like a revolutionary moment. That you can't take all of the money of the country and then just give it to your billionaire friends. They said, this is ridiculous, this is wrong. 99% of the people are against this. But with no spiritual base, it didn't matter. They hadn't done any work on themselves. So jealousy, sometimes they started fighting. Oh, how come he got promoted and not me? This one is fighting that one. Money, you give him some money, he gets off the street. Khawf, you threaten him with something, we're not going to give you a good job. Oh, shoot, let me get the heck off the street. Cleared them all out. Swept them away like riffraff. Why? No spiritual base. This is why this fasting and praying and all of these things build you up. So when we look at the example of the Imam, one of the things I like to say is that yes, we know that the prophets and the Imams are ma'soom, but Allah is showing us something with this from the zahir of it. That the Imam was so mukhlis that he is giving away the food at the time when he's a small child, and he's having full awareness of it. I just want to tell you a little bit about the love that the Prophet had for the Imam Hussain. That when Imam Hussain was born, and the Prophet came, right away and picked him up and took him away into another room from Fatima Zahra. Something strange, because usually you celebrate with the mother, she's so happy, her father's here, her family's here, but the Prophet took Hussein and went to another room. And so Salama came in the room and he saw him holding Imam Hussein and kissing him on the neck and crying and sobbing and sobbing and crying. And Salama is like, why are you crying? The baby just got born. He said, my ummah is going to kill this child, and they're going to abandon him, and they're going to take his wife and his children as prisoners. And the Prophet was genuinely concerned about this. Huzaifa Yamani said that the Prophet came to the people with Hussein on his shoulders. And he said, if ever there comes a time when you are in conflict, I want you to choose the best man. I want you to choose the best man after me and be on his side. Would you like me to introduce you to this man? And the companion said, yes, Ya Rasulullah. He said, this is my son Hussein. This is Hussein bin Ali. He's the best man from his grandfather and his grandmother, because his grandfather is me, and his grandmother is Khadija. Do I want you to, this is Hussein ibn Ali. His father is Ali. He is my brother and my successor, and he is my cousin. And he's the first man who believed. His mother is Fatima. His mother is Fatima. She's the best of the women of the world. This is Hussein bin Ali. His uncle is Jafar at-Tayyar. And his aunt is Hani. Promise me that if he ever needs help, you'll come to help him. And the ummah did not come and help Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein was alone. Imam Hussein was by himself. Imam Hussein was thirsty, and he said, please, is there anyone who wants to go to paradise and give me a drink of water? Is there anyone who wants to help the grandson of the Prophet? Is there anybody? Allahumma jal hayatina hayat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa mamatina mamat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa atina fi dunya ziyarat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa fil akhirah shafaat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.